What is up, guys? Happy Tuesday evening. Hope you're all doing well. It's Tuesday evening, September 9th. We're looking at the Week 2 waiver wire guys here. I'm going to first go over the injuries that I'm monitoring, and then I'll kind of go over my favorite ads. If you guys do have waiver wire questions, please get them in. I will answer them shortly. But again, thank you for joining us this evening. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you guys are new. But we'll start with the injuries that I'm monitoring for this week here. I think at the top, quarterback Brock Purdy. He's got a shoulder. He's got a toe injury. We'll see what happens tomorrow at practice, but the 49ers are banged up right now. I think there's maybe a 50-50 chance that he misses this game, but we'll find out more throughout practice here. So that's one of the bigger ones. A lot of wide receivers with shoulder injuries this week here. I'm seeing Drake London with the big shoulder issue. Now, they play on Sunday Night Football, so we'll hopefully get some practice news tomorrow on London, so I'll feel better about that if he does practice, but I expect him to miss maybe practice Thursday, Friday if he's on track to play. So we're watching the shoulder there for London. Xavier Worthy dislocated his shoulder on Friday evening. I have him listed as doubtful. The good news with Worthy is they have not put him on IR yet. So to me, that says maybe he's going to miss 2 to 3 games. If he's going to miss more than 4 games, I think we would have found out by now. So I'm hoping that it's just a few weeks off for Worthy. We'll talk about all the Chiefs replacements here on the wire. Juwan Jennings, shoulder MRI, came back clean. He's on track to play, I think, this weekend. They're going to play on Sunday, so we'll get some news tomorrow. I think Chris Godwin, we've been projecting week 5 return for him, so he's on track with week 5 still. Darnell Mooney, another Falcons with a shoulder injury. He didn't play last week. I think he has a chance to play this week. I'm not going to play Mooney if he's in, unless I have to. Let's just see what he looks like in his first game back here. It's also like if London's not going to play, maybe we play Mooney, but we'll have to watch the 2 Falcons wide receivers. Christian Kirk's got the hamstring. I think they needed Christian Kirk on the field, so we'll see about his reports starting. No, they play Monday night, so we're not going to get a report on Kirk until Thursday. Tight ends, it was a rough week for tight ends. Brock Bowers has the knee thing. We're going to watch for that. They play on Monday Night Football too, so we'll hopefully hear from him on Thursday. He'll get Thursday, Friday, Saturday practice reports on Bowers. George Kittle, obviously the big one here, out for at least 4 games. He's on IR, so unfortunately we're going to have to find ways. The good news is that it's not a bad opportunity to grab a tight end this week for you. Evan Ingram's got a calf injury. I'm not expecting him to play this weekend. He might miss a game or 2. I think he's dealt with this calf injury before. He honestly, he wasn't really looking all that great to begin with. It was pretty much Cortland Sutton. That was the Broncos offense. So Ingram, not expecting him to play. And if he does play, I don't think I want him in my lineup. We'll see about Darren Waller with the hip. We'll see about Isaiah Likely returning to practice this week. I don't think he's going to play, but he's a guy that you can maybe stash if you have room. And then the last tight end here, Cade Stover, broken foot, out indefinitely. And hey, good evening to Harris. Let's start off with Tank Bigsby here, man. What are we doing with Tank? I mean, now he's purely a handcuff. He's going to get some kick return opportunities in Philadelphia. Besides getting 3, 4, 5 carries while Saquon's healthy, that's pretty much all he's going to be good for. So if there's somebody else that you want to add, not a lot of running backs to add this week. But for me, if I can find a bench player, a lot of the receivers look pretty good this week. I think I'm looking at updating Tank Bigsby, maybe not for a running back, but maybe for a receiver. Rams, Ravens, Cowboys. I'm assuming that's a defense question there, Harris. I like the Ravens, but Flacco is going to keep throwing the ball. There's a chance that game could have some garbage time. The Rams game excites me because they're playing the Titans, and I think that's an offense that we want to target. The Cowboys also targeting the Giants, I think, is a good move as well. I'm going to lean Rams here. I think the Titans are the team that I want to target. I'm going to go Rams, Cowboys, Ravens. That's how I would rank these guys. And since we're on the topic, I'm just going to shout out some other defenses that I'm looking at this week. Arizona Cardinals, and these are defenses that are under 60% owned on ESPN, so they could be available. Starting with the Arizona Cardinals at home against the New Orleans Saints. Saints could score some points just because they're having to throw the ball a lot, but overall, I'm not too worried about it. I think Spencer Rattler could have a turnover or 2. Cardinals at home, I think that makes sense to me. The Packers versus Washington. I don't know if I want to start the Packers this week. I think you can do that if you have to. But I'm looking forward to week 3 where they play the Cleveland Browns and then they get Dallas after that. Their schedule looks kind of nice. So stash the Packers. I think they're a team that we could use all season. Colts versus Denver, a little bit interesting option there. I think the 49ers. The Cardinals just played the Saints. What am I talking about? Yeah, I'm not looking at the wrong week. I typed it up wrong. The Cardinals get the Panthers, so that's still a matchup that I want to target. The 49ers get the Saints. That's one that I want to target. It's in New Orleans, but I think the 49ers, even if they don't have their healthy quarterback and things like that, 49ers defense did look pretty good the other day, so I like them at New Orleans. Tampa Bay, maybe at Houston's one to look at. The Rams at Tennessee is one of my favorite ones. I do like the Cowboys against the Giants, and I kind of like the Chargers at the Raiders. Drop Kenneth Gainwell or Will Shipley. I mean, I think both guys are droppable. I don't really see any of these guys cracking my starting lineup unless it's an emergency. So I think both guys are moving on. For me, if I had to just choose one, I guess I'll go with Will Shipley for this week. I'm gonna move up to the tight ends because I think tight ends, it's a hot week for tight ends. We got the Kittle news, we got the Bowers news, we have a lot of available guys here, and these are guys that are 60. Technically, they're all 50% less owned. That's Hunter Henry, who is 43.5% owned. I think he's going to remain a vital piece of the passing offense. Now, the Patriots threw the ball 46 times. I don't know if we're going to see them throw that much again in a game this season, but I do feel comfortable with the connection there. Henry, at this point, he's kind of like a discounted version of a Mark Andrews, where he's got an opportunity to catch 3, 4, 5 passes per game. He's a red zone guy. He has trust with Drake May. I like Hunter Henry as a low tight end one. I also like Zach Ertz, who caught the touchdown. They didn't really have to throw the ball that much. I think they might have to open it up this weekend against Green Bay. And we just saw Sam Laporta have some nice big chunk plays against the Packers linebackers. Jonnu Smith is a guy that, I think he ended up catching 5 passes, but it was not for a lot of yards. The interesting thing is they did a cool little play for him near the red zone, near the goal line, and he scored a touchdown on it. So I think Smith remains a guy that's a big part of what they want to do. Brenton Strange is another guy that I like for Jacksonville. I think that could be a really fun game this weekend. I think there's 50.5 implied points in that game, Jacksonville-Cincinnati. So keep an eye out for Brenton Strange if you need a tight end. And then Juwan Johnson, man, his utilization this past weekend was pretty exciting. You're looking at a guy that pretty much played every single snap, and they ran 76 snaps in that game against the Cardinals, and Juwan was out there for 74 of them. He ran 47 out of 49 routes. He had 11 targets, and he led the team in 8 with 8 receptions. So if you need a PPR volume tight end, I think Juwan Johnson looks pretty good. And then the one guy that I've been getting the most questions about all week is Harold Fannin Jr. He's less than 1% owned, but man, even if you have Brock Bowers or one of these Trey McBride, even if you have an elite tight end, I think it's worth putting Fannin on the bench because this usage was pretty eye-popping for a rookie tight end. And to be behind a good tight end in David Njoku and still go out there and get all that work, I think was very important. He is a big part of what they want to do. There's also the opportunity where if Njoku gets hurt or if he gets traded, Fannin all of a sudden steps into more routes and more snaps and all that stuff. So I personally like stashing Harold Fannin Jr. in leagues where I can get him. And hey, good evening to Ron. What do you think about Boutte? Yeah, I did. I liked Boutte a little bit last year too. He was the guy that came on strong at the end of the year in December. He's a guy that led the Patriots in snaps, routes, targets, and yards. Let me go find this box score here. Alrighty, so Boutte runs 44 routes out of 53 possible. He has 8 targets, which is a team tie high for with Hunter Henry. He tied for receptions as well with 6. He looked good, man. I think he's going to be their primary number 1 receiver. I do expect Stephon Diggs to get more work as the year goes on. It was his first game back, so maybe some of the targets kind of get dispersed there. But I'm a little worried. We had 46 dropbacks by Drake May in this one. I just don't know if we're going to see that many targets being out there for this offense again. I do think Boutte's a guy that belongs on our benches. I don't know if I'm willing to start him. I kind of want to see one more data point before we start to get him in our lineups. But I think he's a guy that should probably be one of the top added guys this week. And again, if he's going to, I mean, anytime we can get a guy that's going to be just out there for as many plays as he's going to be, I think he's worth adding. He's going to make your team better. So if you have fat to trim on your roster, Boutte looks like a guy that could potentially be staying in fantasy rosters, or at least as a flex consideration. So I'm in on Boutte. To me, it's Justin Herbert. I think Caleb Williams, he showed a lot with his legs, but he still was a little inaccurate with some of his downfield passing. He can sure as hell hit the running backs and the tight ends and the screens and things like that, but he still needs to develop a little bit as a passer. I think Justin Herbert showed everything that we wanted to see on Friday night. And not only that, like, the Chargers were just aggressive throwing the ball. Like, they leaned into Herbert. They leaned into McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, these awesome receivers that they have. So I'm excited about Herbert. I think Caleb Johnson's going to be fine, but he's also got a tough road match at Detroit this weekend. I'm going to go Herbert here and for rest of season as well. Great question, Ron. I am kind of furious on this one. They didn't really tell us what was going on here, which I guess is what they got to do. Teams got to do what they got to do. But part of me was wondering if, hey, you know what? Kenneth Walker was just not healthy all August. And I'm just wondering if this was a way to just get him through game one healthy and potentially ramp up his workload as the season goes on. The good news is he did catch 3 passes. Charbonnet caught 0. I mean, they still ran about the same amount of routes. They still ran about the same amount of rushing attempts. Charbonnet just got the rushing touchdown. I think if the roles were reversed and Walker got the rushing touchdown, we'd all be like, what the heck? Like, everything's fine. So I'm expecting it to kind of stay somewhat 50-50 in week 2 here. They get the Steelers. So I think the easy thing to do is if I can afford to bench Walker, I'm probably going to do that this week. They do get an easy matchup next week on paper. I think they get the Saints. I might be mistaken there. But I am open to seeing what Walker looks like this week so that we can get a better data point for week 3. So I'm a little frustrated. And yeah, basically both guys are, I don't know, like, not really startable. They're guys that you kind of have to pray for a touchdown, hope for that 5 to 8 fantasy point floor. And if you get the touchdown to get you to 15 points, I think that's where you're going to be happy. But for now, I don't like the split. Both guys are kind of useless. They're both great players that I want on my bench. But until we get more clarity, I think we're kind of stuck with these guys just not starting for us. And then, so the other part of the Packers game is, they go down and just, they were just so efficient. They got their touchdowns early. They didn't have to step on the gas at all. The Lions didn't really punch back or give them any reason to have to throw the ball in the second half. So I am a little concerned, especially for Matthew Golden, breakout potential. They're still going to use all these receivers and spread the ball out. I think Jordan Love at one point had like 9 completions to 9 different receivers. So it is going to be frustrating, but hold on to your Packer receivers, an injury or two, maybe a game where they're maybe not favorited to win and they're going to have to throw the ball more. I still think the offense looked good. It looked very efficient, but for now we can't really, if you're starting Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed or Matthew Golden, you're really praying for a touchdown here. I'm going to drop Jerome Ford over Scatabo. I think Scatabo didn't really play a lot, and they're going to continue to try and see what he can do. I did think it was interesting because I thought I saw him in there for some goal line work. He did get 2 rushing attempts. He had 2 receptions. He's a guy that I think could eventually steal more work from Tyrone Tracy. And I think with Judkins coming back, we're probably going to see that Browns backfield morph more towards Judkins and Sampson. So I'm cutting Jerome Ford here. It's Justin Herbert, not even close. Ron says, in Dynasty, I have the opportunity to drop Sanat for Hunter Henry. No, the age must factor into this, but Henry's just I think we were all a little too excited on Sanat. He was a guy that I wasn't super high on because they don't really treat him like a tight end. They kind of view him as like this kind of fullback, almost like a wingback kind of player. And as long as Zach Ertz is there, he's going to continue to be the guy. And John Bates is also their number 2 tight end. He was out there for 37 snaps. Ben Sanat got 8 snaps and didn't even get a route. So I think it might be fine to move on from Sanat. And Hunter Henry, like, he's still got a lot of years left of value in him. I think he's only like 29 years old. He's 30 years old. So tight end years, he still has a runway of 3-4 useful years. So I think it's fine moving to Hunter Henry there, Ron. So I think Jawan's going to be okay. And with Kendrick Bourne, we have Ayuk coming back at some point sometime in October. Ayuk will be back. So I don't really want to grab Kendrick Bourne. He might be a guy that gets some value short term, but for me, I don't really like to make short term decisions, even in redraft leagues. I'm trying to look for the guy that's going to be best for my roster as I push forward the playoffs. And I'm open to Kendrick Bourne. The injury seal is broken on Jennings, so maybe Bourne gets thrust into there and he looks good, and they just can't take him off the field. But I think there might be some better receivers out there for me this week. The receivers that I like, and these guys are all 50% owned and less in ESPN league. That's obviously Hollywood Brown, but again, he's more of a short-term guy. I think Cedric Tillman, I'd rather own Cedric Tillman over Kendrick Bourne. I think Wan'Dale Robinson in full PPR leagues, he's a guy, especially if we get Jackson Dart out there sometime soon, maybe October, that could elevate the passing game, and Wan'Dale Robinson could be a fun PPR option for you. I think Christian Kirk, Demario Douglas are fine PPR options as well. I'd rather own Romeo Dobbs, I think, than Kendrick Bourne. Josh Palmer's another name. Maybe Alec Ayomaner for the Titans, maybe. And then for sure, Quentin Johnston, for sure, over Kendrick Bourne. And then the sleeper that I kind of like is Calvin Austin. I think he's the clear number 2 for the Steelers. When I was looking at their box score, DK Metcalf led the way with 33 routes out of 34 possible routes. Calvin Austin ran 29 out of 34 routes. The next closest receiver ran 7 routes. So it's very clearly Calvin Austin. I'd rather pick up Calvin Austin than Kendrick Bourne, because I think he's a guy that's going to continue to be a part of the offense. And then one more for you. Kayshon Boutte, we talked about him. I'm taking Boutte over Kendrick Bourne. And then the one that I don't know if I put him on the list yet. It's Jalen Royals for Kansas City. I don't fully trust Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's fine. I don't want to pick up Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Jalen Royals, if he gets on the field this weekend, he could be a guy that steps into more work. And especially if Xavier Worthy is indeed hurt for a serious amount of time, maybe Jalen Royals is a guy that starts to emerge there in Kansas City, and you can get him for free. So check your leagues for Jalen Royals as a free ad. How much would you bid for Herbert? It depends on the desperation. You asked about Caleb Williams. You asked about Jared Goff. I don't know which one you already have on your roster. I think if you have Caleb Williams, he's still fine. I don't know if I would feel desperate to add Justin Herbert. But to me, it's Herbert was QB6 in my rest of season rankings, which I uploaded today. For you members out there, I think he's if we go out and get another game where he's thrown for almost 300 yards, he's going to move up in my rankings to top 5 QB. So for now, I'm pretty bullish on Herbert and the Chargers offense. I think it's a team that we want to be a part of for 2025. And yeah, I have Herbert as my QB6 in my rest of season rankings right now. So if I need a guy, and I don't know who your quarterback, you have Jared Goff. Jared Goff just isn't going to get any rushing volume. This offense also has a lot of things going on. They're working in a new offensive line, a new offensive coordinator, and a new defensive coordinator too. I don't know if we're going to see the Jared Goff numbers that we have seen. I'm fine with Jared Goff, but if I can get Herbert on my team, I don't know how many other teams are going to be bidding on him. I mean, probably $15 to $20 or percent, whatever you need there. I would probably, if I can just lock in Herbert for the rest of the year, I think I'd be closer to $20. I hope that helps. I just want to touch. So we touched on the receivers a little bit. We touched on the tight ends and the defenses. It's a rough week for running backs. I mean, I'm looking at my waiver wires in my leagues, and everyone's got these guys here. But if Judkins is out there, Dylan Sampson's out there, I want those 2 guys. I think they're going to be the duo going forward. Trey Benson's a good handcuff move, and he's involved in the offense, it looks like. So he's a guy that could have some weekly flex value if things break right, especially in games where they're projected to win, like this Sunday against Carolina. That's a good spot for Trey Benson. Jaden Blue, if he gets on the field, I think it might look really nice. They keep saying that he needs to be more consistent and kind of get it together, but I think Blue might be their most electric back in Dallas. Braylon Allen, he's kind of just a handcuff touchdown guy for now, but that has value at some point. Kareem Hunt interests me a little bit just because he was out there for a lot of the work, and he kind of split it with Pacheco. If Pacheco gets hurt, like we've seen Pacheco get hurt before, this could be Kareem Hunt's backfield again. So keep an eye on Kareem Hunt. Kenneth Gainwell is just kind of a dirty pickup in case Jalen Warren gets hurt, but they clearly didn't trust Caleb Johnson last weekend. So Gainwell, sneaky backdoor pickup, if you will. And then I have a list of priority handcuff stashes. I think with the Tank Bigsby trade, Bashal Tutin's moving up my list. I know he was already highly drafted and owned, but if someone let him go, or if they let him go this week, go ahead and pick up Bashal Tutin. I think Dameon Pierce might be a guy that gets more work soon if Nick Chubb continues to look like Nick Chubb. Other handcuffs include DJ Giddens, Blake Corum, Rico Dowdle, maybe Ray Davis. I'm holding on to hope for Ollie Gordon. I want to see what it looks like this weekend against the Patriots before we move on from him. But the Dolphins just had such a bad run out. I'm not going to make a crazy overreaction. I'm going to hold Ollie Gordon this weekend. And good evening to Frosty. Hope you're doing well. Would you trade BTJ, Pacheco, and Pollard for London Hampton? I don't think so. I mean, I think BTJ, he's going to get it going this weekend. They just missed on a couple of plays here. Then they found a way to get him in the end zone. I think better days are ahead for BTJ. I love Drake London. He's going to be a high volume guy, but I think BTJ to London are going to be in the same tier for me. Pollard and Hampton, these guys are kind of in the same tier for me as well. And I think just having Pacheco here, I don't know if this trade makes your team better necessarily. I think I'd rather just keep BTJ, Pacheco, and Pollard, but it's close. If you wanted to do it, I'm fine with it. But I think I'm going to keep the guys that you mentioned first. Person who has Brock Purdy might pick him up. I mean, then at that point, as much as you're comfortable, and to me, I never feel bad blowing my money early, especially if it makes my team better. Justin Herbert, I think is the guy that we're going to want on our teams all of 2025. They play the Raiders this week. They get a tough matchup against Denver, but then they're going to get the Giants, the Commanders, the Dolphins. It's a really good run out, I think, for this passing offense. And then the other cool part is week 18 is the next time they play Denver. So you only get Denver once all year on this fantasy schedule. So I guess I would be aggressive with Herbert if I could. St. Brown and Hampton. I don't know if it moves the needle to me, and I might be biased because I'm a Brian Thomas Jr. guy. I like Tony Pollard as well. I think Pollard and Hampton are both running back 2 values to me, and BTJ are both top 5, top 10 wide receiver 1. So it's kind of a preference call. If you feel preference to do so, I would do it. But I'm going to keep BTJ, Pacheco, and Pollard if it's me. I don't know who your other quarterback is there, Josh. If you do not have a top 5, top 10 quarterback, I think I'm into this. Jefferson's going to be – the Vikings showed some promise last night in the fourth quarter. I do expect them to be more consistent as we go further into the year. But I don't know what your quarterback situation is, but getting Jalen Hurts is pretty nice. And I think just a slight downgrade to AJB. Yeah, he's going to have his ups and downs, but I'm pretty – I kind of like this trade. I'm open to it, especially if you have more receiver depth that you like. But we know we're starting Hurts. We know we're starting AJB. I think it makes your team better. And good evening to Scott. Hope you're doing well, my man. And Scott says he'd do it. Aaron Jones and DK Metcalf for Sutton, JCM, and Justin Fields. You guys with all these trade questions. Jones and Metcalf for Sutton, JCM, and Justin Fields. I want Sutton, JCM, Justin Fields. That's the side I want. St. Brown, JCM, and Devonta Smith for Montgomery, JSN, Sutton. I'm going to go with the JSN Sutton side there. Oh, okay, yeah. Then let's go ahead and get Hurts and AJB on the team. I'm into this. I like this move, Random Post. I think a good buy low opportunity for Nico Collins. I know a lot of people are panicking after week 1. I don't really like to make big panicky trades after one game. Statistically, week one's my worst week in fantasy football. There's just so much unknown and hard things to predict. Week two is usually the week where everything that I have predicted starts to look better. So I'm not going to panic on week one. I thought Marvin Harrison did look better, though, but I still think I'm ranking. I mean, my rest of season rankings are up on the website if you guys want to go check it out, but I still have Nico as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. Jonathan says, who should I prioritize on waivers for Sampson, Coleman, Boutte, and QJ? I think it's Keon Coleman, man. And this is one of the guys that I have to take a moment and say I was wrong. I mean, I still have my doubts on Keon Coleman, but it looked really, really good on Sunday Night Football. I don't think we're going to see the Bills have to throw the ball 50 times a game a lot this season. So that's part of it. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of games where the Bills are down 15 points and they have to throw it every play. So I think the volume is probably something that's not going to stick. But what is going to stick is Josh Allen's going to continue to give Keon Coleman chances. And it looks like he was getting open. He was beating Jair Alexander. He was doing a lot of nice things. So Coleman would be the number one option here, Jonathan. Number two, it kind of comes down to, like, do you need running back or receiver? I think Sampson is going to be interesting in PPR leagues. Even when Judkins comes back, I think Sampson, I think they like him and they're going to continue to throw him the ball and give him some touches. So Sampson is a guy that I think can be a nice bench PPR running back for us. Quentin Johnston, I think, looked really, really good too. That's a guy that, just slow and steady development. And all of a sudden we're looking at a guy that he's catching passes and getting touchdowns and getting big plays. He's pretty exciting. And then I like Boutte, but I worry about Stephon Diggs getting more work as he gets healthier. They also threw the ball 46 times in the Patriots game. So I don't know if we're going to see those numbers again. So I'm going to go Coleman, the clear number one. Sampson and QJ are kind of tied for me. Number two, if I need a running back, I'll go Sampson. If I can get Coleman and Sampson, or if I can get Sampson and QJ, I think I'm fine with that. Technically, all four of these guys should be added. I would try and find the way to get these guys on my roster, but I'm going to put Boutte last. Hakuna Matata, Hall or Flowers flex? Oof. I'm not quite sure what to think on Zay Flowers yet. I mean, this is what he's done throughout his career. He's had these massive games, and then he follows them up with these not-so-good games. So I want to see him get more consistent. I think Breece Hall against Buffalo, I mean, they just gave him 19 carries, 2 catches. He was a beast. He didn't get a touchdown, but he was still ripping off big plays. I feel safer with Breece against Buffalo. We just saw Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson run wild against the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to lean Breece Hall here. I think Flowers is a nice consolation. If you have a good feeling on Flowers, I think you can do that, but I'm going to lean Breece Hall here. Hall and Braylon Allen for Jonathan Taylor. I'll take Jonathan Taylor here. Jonathan Taylor looked really good last weekend. He just didn't get a touchdown. I like that he was used as a receiver. That's something that I think could be sticky. I'll take a chance on Jonathan Taylor because touchdowns are coming. I don't quite have ETN as a top 12 back, but I think he's right on the doorstep. He's probably in that, RB 13 to 18 range for me, where if I get one more big game from him, I'm going to keep moving him up, but he is a starting running back too. Right on the fringe of top 15. I think there's maybe like 12 or 13 guys that I feel confident about just ahead of him, but he's in that big RB2 tier of like Chuba, Hampton, Connor, Travion, Breece. It's a fun group there, but ETN, got to find a way to get him in your lineups. We got BTJ, Nico, JSN, and Tet. Running backs are Henry and Hampton. At this point, I think I have the best team in the league by far. Should I make any more moves? Sometimes I think the best move is no move, especially when you have all this talent. It's week one. You might start to see some teams desperate for some things. But when I have a good team like this, man, I like to wait. I like to wait until more things present themselves, more injuries happen that causes more people to be panicky and having to do some crazy things. So if your team's really looking good right now, I think I'm holding on to these chips and going to be patient with them and see what happens. But I think right now your lineup looks pretty sick. Great question, Ron. So my biggest takeaway from that Packers-Lions game was the Lions did not punch back. I think that was the biggest surprise for me. And that's probably the first time I've seen a Dan Campbell team just not have a response or not show any kind of fight back. So I was concerned. The offensive line I thought was going to be good, but they did not open up holes against the Packers. They struggled with the pass rush. There's a lot of moving parts there on Detroit. I think it might take some time for them to get back to where they were last year. But now I'm starting to wonder is like, do they even get back to what we saw last year? There's a lot of issues. I do think they're going to look better, but the Bears defense was causing a lot of trouble last night. That could be another tough matchup, even though it's in Detroit this weekend. So I'm not super worried about the Lions, but I'm starting to think about it where it might not be as good as we thought it was going to be. We need that offensive line to play better. We need them to show a nice big response here in week 2. So slight concern. If London plays, yeah, you're starting Drake London. For this weekend, if London plays, we're going to go London and T. Higgins. Ridley, I am open to, but he's got another tough matchup against the Rams. The Rams just shut down the Texans offense. I don't know if we're going to see that much success through the air for Cam Ward again. I'm probably going to see Travis Hunter from my bench one more time. I'm going to go London and Higgins. If London is out, I might go Higgins Hunter. So start A.J. Brown and JSN, sit Flowers then. Yeah, I think that sounds good. JSN's a must. Like JSN's your number 1 here. A.J. Brown's more of a wide receiver 2 for me at this point. Flowers is in that wide receiver 2 bucket as well. But I do worry about maybe the Ravens just beat the hell out of the Browns and they don't have to throw the ball as much. I mean, the other scary part is they hardly threw the ball to begin with in that game. And in games where they don't have to throw the ball, is it a Bateman game? Is it a Hopkins game? Is it a Mark Andrews game? I think there's a lot of variance with the Ravens and their passing attack. So he's the one that I feel the least comfortable with week to week. I know A.J. Brown just did that, but I'm going to go JSN A.J. Brown here. Okay. So I want Keenan Allen on my team from this group. I'm going to move on from Ollie Gordon. If this is the issue, we're going to get Keenan Allen. We'll dump Ollie Gordon. I do think, we're a little bit nervous about Jennings and Golden right now. Keenan Allen would start over these guys for sure. So I want Keenan Allen for sure. And then if I'm going to rank these guys next, I think it's between Boutte and Tillman as the next best option. And then I still like Calvin Austin. He's a smaller, more of a gadgety type player. I think he's a good player, but he's not really necessarily a guy that I'm going to trust every week in my lineup. Whereas I think Boutte and Tillman could be guys that we end up trusting at some point. But for sure, Keenan Allen over Gordon. That's a no-brainer for me, Jason. Let's give Kupp one more week. It did not look good in week 1 here, but for the most part, the Seattle Seahawks offense didn't look good in general. So I think there might be some growing pains with this offense, but we'll give it another week or 2 here. It's close. It's really close. Trading Tet or JSN for a better QB. I'm currently streaming May and Caleb. Thoughts on that? Caleb Williams put up like 20 bajillion points last night. I don't want to move Tet or JSN, man. I think for me, I'm going to find a way to stream the best quarterback that I can possibly stream. I'm going to hold on to my best flex players. Caleb, he wasn't a great thrower last night, but he still ran the ball a ton, got you 24 points. If you went with Drake May, he still got 16 points. I think he was fine. So I'm holding on to Tet and JSN. I do have to get out of here shortly. So if you guys have any final questions, please fire them up. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com. I uploaded everything today. I got pretty much all the stuff done that I wanted to do today. The rest of season rankings are live. The waiver wire report's up there. The start sit charts are up there. The post-game notes are up there. I'll start working on weekly rankings tomorrow. But Jonathan's asking, in a PPR league with points for first downs and kick returns, how much FOB would you spend on Wandale or Calvin Austin? So did Calvin Austin return Did he get some return work? Let me look this up real quick. So Calvin Austin's going to get. Well, they used Caleb Johnson and Kenneth Gainwell for returning kickoffs. They didn't have any punt returns, though. So maybe he is the punt returner. I'm not sure on that. Let me look at the depth chart here. They have him as the punt returner. So there is some value there. And then with the Giants, is Wan'Dale just punt returns? So Wan'Dale got 2 kick returns for 41 yards, which feels good. And then they use Gunnar Olszewski as the punt returner. So in a PPR league with points for first downs and kick returns. So this is a great question because these guys are both kind of the same player. They're both these small, 5 to 8 yard route players, and they both return kicks and punts. So I don't know how many yard points you get for returns. If they're equal to the amount of yards you get on a catch, I think that's pretty interesting. But these guys are starters in your league then. If you're getting return kick points and things like that and first downs, these guys are 12 to 15 point players each week. So I would be open to spending some money on these guys here. I don't know how much. I don't really play in leagues with return yards. I've been kind of wanting to. So this is a really interesting league. I mean 1 point every 10 yards. Okay, so it is pretty equivalent to like 10 yards of receiving work. So these guys are valuable players. I think I'm going to lean Wan'Dale Robinson just because the kick returns, like teams are going to score on the Giants, and those kick returns will be valuable. And then just throwing the ball a lot, they're going to have to throw the ball. So I'm going to lean Wan'Dale Robinson here. I think I'm willing to spend $15 to $20 if that gets me a potential starting wide receiver flex. And yeah, thank you, Random Post. Keep streaming, man. It'll come together. Keep your best players. We'll figure out quarterback along the way. Pollard, Etienne, Mason, Sampson, J.K. Hampton, but my receivers are Adams, Judges, Golden. How should I upgrade receivers? I would try. I want to keep Etienne, Hampton. If I can move, I kind of want to keep Mason. If I can find someone to buy Sampson or J.K. Dobbins right now, I'm going to try and do that. Otherwise, getting receivers on the waiver wire is the best way this weekend to help you out. Because I think you're going to start Adams and Jefferson every week, but we got to get somebody in there for Golden. So first, I try not to trade unless I have to. The waiver wire is traditionally the way that I like to win and build my roster and continue to churn and burn players through there to improve my roster. I only trade if I have to. So keep churning the roster. If there's other players, positions, like if you don't need a second tight end, don't get a second tight end. You shouldn't be carrying 2 quarterbacks if you have a really good one. That kind of stuff here, Jason. So half PPR and half points per carry. So hoard those running backs, build through the waiver wire. I think that is my message. But hey, I do got to get out of here for the evening, guys. I will be going live tomorrow night. I'm not sure what time yet. I have to go to an event. It won't be till maybe after 7 p.m. Central Time. So I'll get that posted tomorrow. But anyways, good luck with your waiver wires. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out thefantasyfellowship.com. I got a lot of stuff updated there today. And yeah, thank you for your time. Peace.